Are you naturally alert at 6 a.m., or does your brain only switch on after sunset? The debate between morning people and night owls is often framed as discipline versus laziness. But neuroscience tells a different story. This isn't about motivation. It's about biology. At the center of this difference is something called your chronotype, your brain's preferred timing for sleep and wakefulness.
Welcome to SciCuriousID, where curiosity meets science.
Inside your hypothalamus sits a tiny structure known as the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN. This cluster of neurons acts as your master clock. It coordinates your circadian rhythm, a roughly 24-hour biological cycle that regulates sleep, hormones, body temperature, and cognitive alertness. For most people, this rhythm runs close to 24 hours, but not exactly the same for everyone. Some individuals naturally have a slightly longer internal cycle. Others, slightly shorter. That small difference shifts when melatonin rises, when cortisol peaks, and when your brain feels sharpest. Morning types, often called larks, experience earlier melatonin release in the evening. Their cortisol, the hormone associated with alertness, rises earlier in the morning. As a result, they wake up naturally, think clearly before noon, and feel sleepy earlier at night. Night owls are biologically shifted in the opposite direction. Their melatonin rises later. Their internal temperature minimum occurs later. Their cognitive peak tends to fall in the late afternoon or evening. This isn't a personality trait. It's a measurable shift in circadian phase. Genetics plays a significant role. Variations in clock genes such as PER3, clock, and CRY1 influence chronotype. In 2017, researchers identified a CRY1 gene mutation associated with delayed sleep phase disorder, effectively pushing the biological night later. Twin studies estimate that around 40 to 50% of chronotype variation is heritable. But genes are not the whole story. Light exposure strongly influences circadian timing. Morning sunlight advances the clock earlier. Late-night artificial light, especially blue wavelengths from screens, delays it. Age also matters. Adolescents experience a natural circadian delay due to hormonal changes during puberty. This is why teenagers often struggle with early school schedules. As people age, circadian timing tends to shift earlier again. Now here's where modern society enters the picture. Work and school schedules were designed during the industrial era. Standardized early start times align more closely with morning chronotypes. This creates what sleep researchers call social jet lag, a mismatch between biological time and social obligations. Night owls forced to wake early often accumulate sleep debt during the week and compensate on weekends. This chronic misalignment has been associated in some studies with metabolic disruption, mood instability, and reduced cognitive performance. Importantly, this does not mean night owls are less capable. It means they are operating out of sync. Neuroscience research shows that cognitive performance peaks align with individual circadian highs. Reaction time, working memory, and executive function fluctuate across the day. A morning-type individual tested at 8 a.m. may perform optimally. A night owl tested at that same hour may perform below their biological potential, but show peak performance at 8 p.m. When researchers test people at their personal circadian peak, performance differences often diminish. In other words, productivity is not fixed. It is time-dependent. Can you change your chronotype? To some extent, yes, but only within limits. Consistent sleep schedules, controlled light exposure, and strategic timing of exercise can gradually shift circadian phase. However, extreme shifts are difficult because your intrinsic circadian period is biologically constrained. Think of it less like flipping a switch and more like adjusting a dimmer. The critical insight from chronobiology is simple. There is no biologically superior chronotype. Morning people are better aligned with current social systems. Night owls are often penalized by them. The question is not which type is better. The question is whether your daily schedule aligns with your internal clock. So ask yourself, When do you actually think most clearly, and is that when your schedule demands it? Are you truly a morning person or simply adapted to an early alarm? And if society allowed fully flexible schedules, how different would our definition of productivity be?
Thanks for watching SciCuriousID. Until next time.